Hello, Sebastian Lucido here, and welcome to Headlines of Prophecy. Today I want to discuss, as we've discussed in the past, the Ezekiel 38 war, which I believe is the next major event in Bible prophecy. We're seeing a complete shift in the world in the last really 120, 150 days with the Biden administration, but also Israel changed its leadership this last week or so. Bibi Netanyahu, who's been there for 18 years, is out, and a new government is in. A coalition was formed. Two very strong men with very strong views on Israel and its future, its direction, and actually agreeing with Bible prophecy. President Trump actually set up normalization agreements with the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Oman. They have peace agreements with Jordan and Egypt, and there were more agreements coming where there was normal transactions between those nations. This wasn't just a peace agreement; it was a normalization agreement where kids can go to school in either country. Travel would be opened, sharing of technologies would be open, and so it was big strides. And then on January 20th, when Joe Biden took over, he has a completely different view of the Middle East and is moving toward reestablishing the Iranian agreement, which President Trump did away with, and which is an issue with those nations that Israel normalized with, because they all had, including us, we had a common enemy in Iran. And so because of that, we see lots of shifting going on. Israel has, again, made a decision. They're a democracy, and they made a decision for new leadership. So I'm not sure what direction Israel is going to go, but clearly President Biden is moving toward a peace agreement with Iran, who is a known terrorist organization, a great sponsor of terrorism. They're against democracy. They're a very, very big funder of terrorism. And so I don't know why. I just know that from a biblical standpoint, when you read Ezekiel chapter 38, and I'm going to go there again, and I'll instead of reading the entire chapter, let me just give you the highlights of it, and then get to the meat of why I think we're going in this direction and how things have to change according to Bible prophecy. It opens up with Gog Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal, which again are all within Russia. Tubal is a city. Muscovy or Meshach, Muscovy is Moscow. Rosh is the Rusians. These are all Noah's grandchildren and great-grandchildren that settled in this area. And in verse 4 he says, I'll turn you and put a hook in your jaw and lead you into battle against Israel. Joining them in verse 5 is Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya, which are northern Africa. And then in verse 6 it says Gomer land, and Togarmah. Togarmah is Turkey. Gomer land is the old Soviet states on the southern end, which are all pretty much Muslim. And so those countries, in there is Syria as well. So you're really looking at northern Africa. You're looking at the Shia states. Turkey, which is a Shia state, whose leader Erdogan is calling for the caliphate, which is to take back Jerusalem. You have the old Soviet states that are predominantly Muslim, Iran, which is Shia Muslim, and so and not that Shias are bad and Sunnis are good. It's just this particular element of Shias are very aggressive in their evangelism, if you will, of Islam. And so when you read down in the chapter, the nations that come against this coalition of Russia, Iran, Turkey, the old Soviet states, Northern Africa, Syria, is Sheba and Dedan, which is the Sheba and Dedan is the Saudi peninsula. So if you look at Saudi Arabia, it's a predominant part of the peninsula, but you have Jordan, You have Kuwait, you have Oman, you have United Arab Emirates, you have Bahrain, and there's several other countries that sort of surround it. That entire province was moving toward normalization agreements under Trump with Israel, which would have made that solid block of nations that normalize relations with them. So Sheba and Dedan, the merchants of Tarshish, which is us. Tarshish is a Spanish port that was predominantly English. The English would bring their goods and services onto the European continent because they were always at war with France. The King of England and the King of France were always at war. Not always, but predominantly. So the English would bring their goods and services onto the European continent and Tarshish. So it says the merchants of Tarshish, which it's not Tarshish, but the merchants that use that Tarshish port and city, which is England, and their young lions. That's us. The offspring of England, which is what? Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the U.S. So we say in verse 13, have you come to take a plunder? Why have you gathered your armies to take bounty, to carry silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, and to plunder? So, when you look at what our country's current direction in making peace, biblically, God says we're going to be at war with this nation. We're actually going to be at war with this nation. So, when you look at the headlines and the current headlines, and you should read Ezekiel 38 and 39, you'll see that they get destroyed. I mean, absolutely destroyed. 5/6 of them are destroyed of the invading armies. So God supernaturally works with this coalition government with Israel. Similar to the 6-Day War in the 60s, 5 major nations were coming against Israel, and Israel destroyed them in 6 days. They put them all down in 6 days. And so, when we look at our current direction, under Trump, it was very easy for me to draw a straight line with Trump and Bibi Netanyahu at this occurring, putting this coalition together. But then January 20th, I don't necessarily like the things that President Biden is doing. I don't like any of them, frankly. I don't like the border. I don't like that he opened up a pipeline for Russia to build wealth and shut down one that we had coming from Canada. I don't like what he's doing. But in this particular arena, we're on the other side of God here. And so this is a direct on the other side of God. And it's not just the socialists. It's not, gay marriage and some of the other things we discussed in earlier broadcasts, but this is real. Those that bless Israel will be blessed, and those that curse Israel will be cursed. And so on his way out, Bibi Netanyahu actually said that he was asked by the Biden administration not to talk about his views on the Iranian deal, but he came right out and said, it's like dealing with the devil. And so we need to keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem. We need to keep informed. So other things, I think, in the news, I think the Equality Act and some of the critical race theory that we've spoken against in prior broadcasts, I think you're starting to see parents around the country come to school board meetings to come against this radical thinking. Remember, we as Christians, we love, and so if we love, we put everyone above us. Philippians tells us to esteem others better than ourselves. When you love someone, you put their needs and cares above yours, and so there's no need to look at color, because there is no color in Christianity. We're called to love. We're called to unite. We're not called to divide one against the other. And so, again, that was in a prior broadcast. But anyway, I don't want to keep babbling on. That's it for this week's Headline and Prophecy. Please share this with friends and family. Also, you can go to our website and get, there'll be 5 curriculums with workbooks that are all free. All of that biblical resource is free. We have a curriculum on end times, which is 12 teachings with a workbook. Teaching on salvation, which is 10 teachings a workbook. Teaching on Jesus, the life of Jesus, and understanding Jesus, not just Jesus on earth, but pre-Bethlehem Jesus and Resurrection and Ascension Jesus. It's 10 hours in a workbook. And I just filmed one in Tulsa. It'll be up in probably 4 weeks, which is life to life, what happens to a Christian when they die. Separation of soul and spirit, heaven, hell, understanding the resurrection and rapture, and then how you deal with the emotions of losing someone. So those are all free to you. We give everything free in our ministry. We don't charge for any of our teachings. Naturally, we survive by having partners that where we speak into their life and the Holy Spirit moves on them to contribute to our ministry. So please join our ministry. It's watchersoftruth.com, and you'll get notes for each of our teachings. I teach on eschatology every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and I teach a general Bible study every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So with that, God bless you, and we'll see you